What if I told you that the thoughts racing through your mind right now, the endless loop of worry and planning and replaying conversations that already happened, are not making you smarter or safer, but are actually blocking you from the wisdom you seek? I know this seems impossible in a world that tells you to think harder, analyze more, prepare for every possibility, but I am here, an old monk who has spent decades watching water flow and mountains stand in silence, to share with you an ancient Taoist method that can free you from the prison of overthinking in this very moment. We call it the empty cup method, and it is not a mental trick or a clever philosophy to debate. This is the natural law that governs all of existence, the same principle that allows the valley to receive the river and the bowl to hold the soup. Lao Tzu taught in the Tao Te Ching that we shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it useful. We carve doors and windows for a house, but it is the empty spaces that make it livable. In the same way, your mind's greatest power lies not in how much it can hold, but in its capacity to be empty, to create space where clarity can enter like sunlight through an open window. Right now, I invite you to participate in this ancient practice by leaving a simple phrase in the comments below, a sacred declaration that begins your journey. I empty my cup and trust the flow. Write these words not for me or for others, but as a promise to yourself that you are ready to pour out the stale water of endless thinking and receive the fresh wisdom that only emptiness can. Welcome. Let me tell you something I have witnessed in my many years walking among people in cities and villages. The modern world has convinced you that thinking more equals living better, that the mind which never stops analyzing is the mind that will finally figure everything out and be safe. But look closely at what this belief has created. You lie awake at 3 in the morning replaying a conversation from last Tuesday, editing your words, imagining what you should have said, torturing yourself with alternate versions of a moment that is already gone like smoke on the wind. You sit at your work desk but accomplish nothing because your mind is spinning through 17 different scenarios of things that might happen next month, next year, in 10 years, building elaborate towers of worry about futures that will never arrive in the exact form you imagine. You stand in the shower, but you are not really there. You are somewhere else entirely, thinking about your thinking, worried about your worrying, trapped in a hall of mirrors where each thought reflects another thought which reflects another until you forget entirely what the first thought even was. This is the disease of our time, this addiction to mental activity, this terror of the empty space where thinking stops. Your cup is so full of old tea, stale and bitter and cold, that there is no room for anything fresh or alive or true. The irony is profound. You think constantly in order to gain control over your life, but the thinking itself is what makes you feel most out of control. This is what happens when we forget the ancient wisdom, when we lose touch with the Tao, the natural way that flows through all things without needing to think about itself first. In ancient China, before the world became so noisy and rushed, the sages spent their lives observing the behavior of nature with patient attention. Lao Tzu, the old master whose teachings formed the foundation of Taoist wisdom, noticed something remarkable. The most effective forces in existence do not overthink. The river does not hold a committee meeting to decide which way to flow around the rock. It simply flows, following the path of least resistance, and yet over time it carves the Grand Canyon without ever stopping to worry whether it is doing a good job. The tree does not analyze whether it should grow this year or perhaps wait until conditions are more favorable. It simply grows, sending roots down and branches up, trusting the intelligence built into its very nature. Even the Tao itself, the mysterious source and pattern of all creation, operates in perfect emptiness, giving birth to 10,000 things without planning or scheming or second-guessing its decisions. This is Wu Wei, the art of action without forcing, the power of accomplishing everything by not overthinking anything. When you practice the empty cup method, you align yourself with this cosmic principle. You stop trying to think your way into clarity, and instead allow clarity to arise naturally from the stillness, the way the reflection of the moon appears on the lake only when the water stops moving. Chuang Tzu, another ancient sage who understood the Tao deeply, told a story about a butcher who could carve an ox perfectly because he did not think about where to cut. His knife moved through the spaces between bones and joints as if guided by an invisible intelligence, and his blade stayed sharp for 19 years because he never forced it against resistance. This is what happens when you empty your cup of overthinking. You discover that there is a deeper knowing within you, an intuition that does not require endless mental calculation, a wisdom that flows from the Tao itself when you create space for it to move through you. Come with me now to the edge of the forest where a small stream runs over smooth stones. Watch the water for a moment and you will see the empty cup method in action, demonstrated by nature itself without any words or explanations needed. The water does not cling to the stones as it passes over them. It does not worry about the waterfall ahead or regret the mountain spring it left behind. It does not overthink its path, creating elaborate theories about the optimal route to the sea. The water simply empties itself forward, moment by moment, releasing what was and welcoming what is. And in this continuous emptying it remains eternally fresh, eternally alive, eternally in harmony with the landscape through which it moves. This is the great teaching hidden in plain sight. Your thoughts are like water, and they are meant to flow through you, not to pile up inside you like a dam holding back a flood. When you try to hold on to every thought, analyzing it, protecting it, building elaborate structures around it, you create the suffering of overthinking. But when you practice emptying, letting each thought pass through like water through your open hands, you discover the freedom of the empty cup that can be filled with whatever life brings in this present moment. The bamboo in the wind teaches the same lesson from a different angle. When the storm comes, the bamboo does not stiffen and overthink its strategy for survival. It simply empties itself of resistance, bending with each gust. And this very emptiness of rigid thought is what allows it to survive storms that break the proud oak tree. Your mind is meant to be like this, flexible and empty, responsive to the moment rather than filled with plans and worries and endless mental rehearsals for situations that may never come. Now I want to share with you the practical steps of the empty cup method. Simple actions you can take today to begin freeing yourself from the exhausting cycle of overthinking. The first step is recognition, which means simply noticing when your cup is full. Throughout your day, pause occasionally and observe your mind. Is it racing through multiple thoughts at once, jumping from worry to worry like a monkey leaping between branches? Is it replaying the same conversation or scenario over and over, like a broken record that cannot move forward? This noticing is not about judging yourself or feeling bad about your thoughts. It is simply looking clearly at what is, the way you might look into a cup and notice that it is full of yesterday's tea. The second step is the practice of pouring out, which we call Zuo Wang in the Taoist tradition, sitting and forgetting. Find a moment today to sit quietly, even just for 5 minutes, and consciously release each thought as it arises. You do not need to fight your thoughts or try to stop them by force. Simply acknowledge each one as it appears, and then let it go, the way you might tip over a cup and let the old tea pour onto the earth where it can nourish something useful rather than stagnating inside the cup. When a worry about tomorrow comes, notice it, and then release it with this understanding: this thought is not happening now, and I do not need to carry it. When a regret about yesterday comes, notice it, and then release it with this truth: this moment is already gone, and I cannot change it by thinking about it. As you practice this emptying, something miraculous begins to happen. You feel lighter, as if you have set down a heavy backpack you did not realize you were carrying. The third step is asking the powerful question that creates instant space. What would happen if I did not think about this right now? This simple question is like tipping the cup before it gets too full. You do not need to answer the question with more thinking. Simply asking it creates a gap, a pause, a moment of emptiness where the Tao can whisper its wisdom to you in the language of intuition and feeling rather than words and analysis. As you continue practicing the empty cup method, you will begin noticing signs that harmony is returning to your life, subtle shifts at first but growing more obvious with each passing day. The first sign is a feeling of spaciousness inside your mind, as if the cluttered room of your thoughts has suddenly been cleaned and you can see the floor again. You can breathe again. You can move freely without bumping into piles of mental furniture. This spaciousness is your natural state, the state you were in as a young child before the world taught you that you must think constantly to be valuable. When the muddy water of overthinking begins to settle because you stop stirring it with your mental stick, the sediment sinks naturally to the bottom and the water becomes clear. You can see all the way through to the truth that was always there but was hidden by the murkiness of too many thoughts. This clarity is not something you achieve by thinking harder or being smarter. It is revealed when you stop doing so much, when you trust the natural settling that happens in emptiness. People around you will begin to respond to you differently, though you have not tried to change their perception of you. They will sense a calmness in your presence, a groundedness that comes from being here now rather than scattered across yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's worries. Your decisions will become easier and more aligned with your true nature, because you are no longer paralyzed by overthinking every possible outcome. Instead, you will feel your way forward with the intuition that flows from the empty cup, the deep knowing that does not require elaborate justification or endless analysis. Your relationships will improve not because you have found the perfect words to say, but because you have stopped overthinking every interaction and started simply being present with the people you love. Most of the damage we cause in relationships comes not from what we do, but from the stories we tell ourselves in our overactive minds, the narratives we construct about what others meant by their words or actions, the elaborate theories we build that have little connection to reality. When you empty your cup of these stories, you can see people as they actually are, rather than as your overthinking mind imagines them to be. The transformation continues deepening as you make the empty cup method a daily practice rather than a one-time event. You begin to understand at a cellular level what Lao Tzu meant when he said that the Tao does everything by doing nothing, that the sage accomplishes great things by not trying to accomplish them. This sounds like a paradox to the overthinking mind, but it becomes obvious truth to the empty cup. When you stop filling every moment with mental activity, you create space for the natural intelligence of life to work through you. This intelligence is far wiser than your personal thinking could ever be. It is the same intelligence that knows how to grow your hair and digest your food and heal your cuts without you needing to figure out the complex biology involved. It is the wisdom of the Tao itself, and it can guide your life with perfect precision if you stop blocking it with overthinking. The ancient masters called this state Moshin, the mind of no mind, and they did not mean that you become stupid or unconscious, but they meant that you become empty of the clutter of overthinking so that you can be full of the wisdom that flows from the source of all things. When your personal cup is empty, the universal tea can be poured in, and this tea has a flavor that your small mind could never create no matter how long it thought about it. You will also discover the profound truth that most of what you worried about and overthought never actually happened, and the few things that did happen rarely look like what you imagined in your mind. This realization frees you from the addiction to preventive overthinking, the belief that if you just think about all possible problems in advance, you can protect yourself from suffering. The universe is too creative, too spontaneous, too alive to be predicted by your thinking, so you might as well save your energy and trust that when challenges come, the empty cup of your present mind will know exactly what to do without having rehearsed it 10,000 times in advance. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with a final image that captures the essence of the empty cup method. Imagine a monk standing in a temple courtyard in the early morning, holding a beautiful porcelain cup in both hands. The cup is filled with old tea, dark and bitter and cold from sitting overnight. The monk walks slowly to the garden and pours the tea onto the roots of a jasmine plant, watching as the earth drinks it in and transforms it into nourishment for new flowers. Then the monk stands in stillness, holding the empty cup, and waits. Soon the rain begins to fall, and fresh water fills the cup naturally, without any effort, without any overthinking about where the water will come from or whether there will be enough. The cup simply receives what the sky offers, and the monk drinks the pure rainwater with gratitude, knowing that this is how life is meant to be lived. You are this monk, and your mind is this cup. The old tea of overthinking has served its purpose, but now it is time to pour it out and trust that when you are empty, life will fill you with exactly what you need in each moment. This is not passivity or laziness. This is the highest wisdom, the way of Wu Wei, accomplishing everything by not forcing anything, solving every problem by not creating new ones with overthinking. The Tao flows like water, soft and yielding and yet capable of wearing away mountains. When you empty your cup and align yourself with this flow, you become unstoppable not through force but through harmony, not through thinking but through being. Today, I invite you to practice the empty cup method just once. Choose one moment when you notice your mind spinning with overthinking, and instead of adding more thoughts, simply tip the cup and let them pour out. Watch what happens in the space that opens. Feel the relief that comes from not carrying every thought to its ultimate conclusion. Notice how the world does not fall apart when you stop trying to think your way through everything. Return here and share your experience by leaving that simple phrase, "I empty my cup and trust the flow." If this ancient wisdom resonates with the quiet knowing in your heart, I invite you to continue walking this path with me by joining this channel. Together we will explore the teachings of Lao Tzu and the way of water and the freedom that comes from emptiness. Remember this always: the cup's usefulness lies not in its clay walls, but in the empty space those walls protect. Your mind's greatest power lies not in how much you can think, but in your willingness to stop thinking and trust the Tao that has been guiding stars and trees and rivers since before thinking was invented. Go now in peace, carrying your empty cup with gentle hands, and watch as life fills it with wonders your overthinking mind could never have imagined. The sage does not think ahead, and so is ready for anything. The wise person empties their cup daily, and so is never without the fresh tea of wisdom. Follow the way of water, soft and empty and irresistible, and discover that the freedom you have been thinking about is found not in your thoughts, but in the beautiful emptiness between them.